A Town Square media station.
WTUG HD2 Northport and W265CG Tuscaloosa. Tide 100.9. Streaming on the Tide HD2 Northport and W265CG Tuscaloosa. A Town Square media station.
One man to beat, you can forget about it. Touchdown, Alabama.
Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you were playing fullback up there. And I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. If you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to fix it, and our running back coach didn't take it. biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning. Welcome into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier on Tide 100.9 on your radio dial. Also, you can check us out online on our radio network. You can find us under Martin Houston 35 on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. Also, you can find us under X's and O Sports on Facebook. And today we add DC Capstone Report to the conversation as well. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning. So we're live, local, and ready to get things going. I want to invite you to join us on the conversation at 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline. And so glad that you are a part of that conversation. Or you may want to talk to us through the interactive format of chat, where you can put your thoughts, your comments, your chat. Works just like the old school phone line. You can talk and get your comments in, even when the phone lines are busy, and we'll work it into the conversation. So regardless of how you want to interact with us, we're here to interact with you. And I encourage you to like, share, follow what's happening here, donate as well, as we try to do what we do right here. Your support, both with your words, your time, and your finances, help us do what we do. And we appreciate you for that. So like, follow, share, donate. All right. Remember that this is the day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. Good morning, X. How you doing, sir?
Good morning. Doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Good morning, DC. How you doing, sir?
Oh, doing great, Martin X. How y'all doing this morning?
We're great. Great. All right. Hey, let's go ahead and get to the conversation. Got a lot we can get to. Some carryover conversation from yesterday. We'll bring into the conversation. But last night we saw a national championship game. So I'll get your thoughts on that, as Alabama had to watch the team that gave them their first defeat and their last defeat battle it out on hardwood for a national title. What were they thinking? Get inside the head of the players, and more importantly, get inside the head of Nate Oates as he watched that game last night. What would be your takeaway, guys and gals, if you were the coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide and you watched that game last night? Did it speak to you? Did it say anything to you? Then we'll talk a little spring practice. Nick Saban said last week, full metal jacket. What did he mean by that? We're going full metal jacket. Talking about the disappointment of last year and the season and all that. What did he mean by that statement? New coaches, new players, new enthusiasm, new energy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He's talking about going back to becoming a more balanced team. What does that word mean in terms of sports in Nick Saban? Does it mean the same thing? And can we talk about some examples where he said it last year, but it didn't happen? Why do you believe Nick Saban will get Alabama back to balance this year? We can talk about that. We can talk about basketball and whether you're concerned with your basketball program losing a couple coaches. Potentially another coach could be on the way up and out. Also, 4 or 5 guys interested in the portal and or leaving already. I mean, not the portal, but the portal, the draft, and or leaving due to no eligibility. Does that give you pause for concern, especially after you watched last night's national championship game? That conversation will be there as well. And then another conversation that we can even get to today, DC, is Nick Saban said expecting impact from the young players. Which young guy do you think is going to fulfill Nick Saban's wishes when it comes to impact players? So lots of conversation to get to, and we have it ready for you, teed up for you, ready to tip off, ready to throw the first pitch, whatever you want to call it this morning. You can do that once again by calling the Alabama One hotline at 205-342-9904. So, DC, I'll circle back to you last night, national championship game. The team that played the best in March definitely won the title, winning every game by double digits throughout the tournament. UConn, the national champion, is before I even get into what Nate Oates, do we need to start thinking about UConn in a different light as they have more national titles in since 1999 and into the 2020s than anyone. 5 titles since their first title, and that's in less than a 25-year run.
Yeah, I don't think we think about UConn as a blue blood, and I think that they are definitely in that category of the Dukes and the Kansas and the Kentuckys of the world, and I think that and they've proven that over the last decade or two, 3 decades rather. So over the last 30 years, they're probably one of the most prolific basketball teams that's out there.
Does anybody have Aiton? Can you search it up? I think they were all tied at like 4. And I think UConn sits alone with 5. And since their first one in 99, I think they sit alone now, DC, with that win as the most.
But we don't even think about them in the conversation when you say blue bloods. Right. Really, you think of other teams. I think we need to give them credit. I thought they played a great game. I thought they were great coached. I think they, when other teams would have had showed in the past that they got rattled when San Diego State made a comeback, and San Diego State made comebacks and made plays. They didn't. They went back down the court, played their game, stuck to their game, and when they had turnovers, they went back down, played hard defense, and they didn't put their head down. When they made mistakes, they kept their heads up and looked to get the ball back. And so I was very impressed with the way they were coached, the way they played, and did a great job. And I guess if I'm Nate Oates and I'm sitting there, or any Alabama fan, you're sitting there and you have a record of 31-6, and 2 of the 6 teams that beat you are playing for the national championship. So you realize you had a good year, but you realize you missed out on some great opportunities. And in my final game, I had Alabama versus UConn at the rematch. So there was a lot of regret that you could have had too, sitting there thinking that could have been you, sitting there at least playing for an opportunity to win the national championship. So I think it's kind of bittersweet. I think watching it as a fan or watching it as a player or as Nate Oates last night.
So yeah, just to confirm, UConn stands alone, having 4 national championships in the new millennium, a 5th if you go back to 99. Nobody has had that many in that time. They also stand alone in the feat of having been to 5 national championships in program history and having won every single time they have been.
Yeah, they're 5-0 when they get there. And the crazy part is you do not want the Final Four to be in Texas. The last 4 titles, listen to this. The last 4 titles that UConn has is all from Texas, the state of Texas. So you don't want, if you're looking out,
you don't want us Yankees coming down south, Martin.
You don't want UConn playing you in the championship X in Texas, because if it's a Final Four happening in Texas, UConn is getting there and they're winning. You know, I mean, what do we say that makes Jordan?
That's insane.
Do what now?
That's crazy. Just that's one of those crazy things in sports that when you finally go back and look at it, you're like, wait a second. That I mean, you see it across every sport. There's something weird where a team goes somewhere and they don't lose or they can't win. But I did not realize that.
Yeah, that's crazy. And we talk about Michael Jordan being the greatest because he never loses in a championship. You're gonna have to start thinking about UConn. And is this the 3rd coach at UConn to do it?
Yeah. 3rd coach winning championship since 99, I believe.
Now think about that. And before, guys, what you have to understand, 99 was for their first national title. They didn't have a big boy conference championship until the early 90s.
And in the 99, they won the title as the first 5th seed, I think, ever to win the title.
I think they said that there has not been a 5th seed. I think they were either 4 or 6. I can't remember. But they were low seed. Now, I don't know that part. I just heard them say that last night. But the crazy part, DC, is it doesn't matter where if they get in and it's in Texas, go ahead. I know next time it's in Texas, I'm looking at my bracket and putting UConn and then working backwards. But DC, the other part of that conversation, though, and we'll go to break and come back and pick this up. As I'm watching that game, I'm going, the same style beat me for my first loss, and the same style beat me for my second loss. I mean, my last loss of the season. First loss of the season, last loss of the season. Here was a program that only 25 years ago was where Alabama was. They were coming, and they got over the hump. Well, how did they do it? I guarantee you, and I didn't do this, but you go back and look, I guarantee you they have older players with some they have some big time players, but they have older veteran players with young blood mixed in. But they could win different ways. And when got it down to 5, DC, the dagger was the 3 by Hawkins that put them back up by 8. San Diego State never threatened again. That's the power of having, I heard this said multiple times. And so I want y'all to chew on this during the break. Can Alabama win in multiple ways? Okay. And let's talk about what those multiple ways are. And last but not least, is there another way we need to add to that UConn showed last night? Potentially. We'll talk about it right here on the Martin Houston Show. We invite you to get in on the conversation, 205-342-9904. You listen to the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, powered by MaX Sports. We got DC Capstone Report in on the conversation today.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks on this Tuesday morning. Everything looks pretty good on the roadways, but if you do see conditions, of course, give me a call. Townsend Nissan is paying top dollar for your current car, truck, SUV, because values are at an all-time high. The Save-a-thon is underway, and BJ's making deals at Townsend Nissan. And I'm Captain Ray.
Deep to right field, way back there, and gone. Grand slam. Alabama baseball single-game tickets are now on sale. The 2023 season includes home matchups with Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, and more. With a top 15 recruiting class, 3 out of the last 4 seasons, you won't want to miss out on any of the excitement at the Joe. Purchase your Alabama baseball tickets at RollTide.com today.
If you need insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm agent Derek Daniel is there with auto, homeowners, and life insurance throughout the Tuscaloosa area, including Northport, Cottondale, Brookwood, and Vance. In a world that is ever-changing and busy, it is the focus of Derek Daniel State Farm to ease the stress that can come with insurance by putting an emphasis on personalized service. Contact Derek Daniel State Farm today at 758-3391 or stop by their office at 1214 McFarland Boulevard Northeast in Tuscaloosa.
What you've heard about probiotics is probably wrong.
I eat yogurt, so I don't need to take a probiotic. Probiotics? They don't really work.
It's time to learn the truth about probiotics from Align, the probiotic brand recommended by gastroenterologists 2 times more than any other probiotic brand. Align has probiotics to naturally help relieve occasional bloating, gas, and abdominal discomfort. Try Align for a month and see how great a healthy gut can feel at AlignProbiotics.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A very warm day ahead. Morning clouds giving way to a partly sunny afternoon. Just a small chance of a shower. The high 87. For tonight, becoming mostly cloudy, the low 69. Tomorrow, a mix of sun and clouds with isolated showers, the high 86. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 70 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Scott Smith and Softmark Design, doing business for 17 plus years, specializing in graphic design services, commercial printing, promotional products, advertising specialties, and so much more. Basically, any and everything you would need to advertise, promote, and grow your business. Through strong partnerships, strong customer service, and creative ideas, they'll help you market and grow your business. Give Scott a call at 205-292-4680 or email scottis@comcast.net and visit him online at softmarkdesign.com.
Keep it locked into Tide 100.9 for more of the Martin Houston Show with Martin Houston and X's and O's Sports, Xavier Houston.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. We're officially onboarding one of our new sponsors, and that is Mrs. Karen Cottingham, new realtor here in town. DC, tell us a little bit about him, and I'll tell people how they can get in touch with it if they're out there on the market.
Yeah, Karen Cottingham's a new sponsor of mine as well. Just she's a realtor here in town with the Williams Group with Keller Williams. She's available for all your real estate needs, and is available across the entire state of Alabama, and does a great job for all those that she's helped, and she can help you with your real estate needs as well.
All right. Karen Cottingham, realtor here, based out of Tuscaloosa, but serving the entire state of Alabama. You can call her at 205-887-4008. Also, want to encourage you, if you're looking to list a home, buy land, you need someone to show your home, Karen is the one that you need to reach out to. You can reach her at Karen Cottingham at kw.com. That's Karen with a K, Cottingham at kw.com. Welcome to the starting lineup, Karen, here on the show. We're glad to have you as you support DC Capstone Report. All right, DC, as we keep things rolling, this morning we were talking about can Alabama win in multiple ways, and what are those ways, and is there anything that they need to add in ways they can win if they're going to get to the national championship level?
Well, yeah, I think that we're going to need to add, and I'm not sure this is within Nate Oates' scheme or plan, but I think we do a good job. Alabama does a good job of the threes. When the threes are working, we're hard to beat. If our threes are working well, then I don't think we can be beat. And then we got a rim protector right now. And going into the shots at the rim, do a good job sometimes getting those in when the threes aren't working. But I think one thing we lack is that game that UConn and San Diego State has. San Diego State had a great game, mid-range game in Trammell. He did a great job to bring them back in this game by hitting those mid-range shots. When UConn stopped the threes, pressed the threes at three-point line, and they had great rim protectors in Sonogo and Klingman, and you just couldn't dribble drive like they were trying to do. They would pull up and hit that mid-range three, and that's what cut the lead to 5. When you think about it, the three-point shots they were able to hit from the driving and kicking back out, and the the twos they were able to hit from the mid-range. And I think that's something that lacks from Alabama's game right now. I don't think we have that. I don't even think it's taught. I think it's actually discouraged. So I think that's something we need to add in order to be a well-rounded team, in my opinion.
X, what's your thoughts? X back.
I agree with what DC was saying when it comes down to Alabama's mid-range game was non-existent at a lot of times throughout the season. And you're looking at a team that can do both, two teams that did both very well. And when Alabama's shot wasn't falling, we had no backup. We had no other way, nowhere else to go during the course of the game. It was either drive or it was take a three. And when you have a rim protector and your three's not falling, you're gonna lose.
Yeah, and a couple of things, and I'll give you a couple other thoughts and let you guys respond to it. First of all, I agree with we need to add the mid-range game, and Alabama can win in multiple ways, but those multiple ways was offensive threes falling, driving, and then kicking back out to the three. Okay. And then you have that along with the three falling on the drive. But if it's not falling and I physically beat you up on defense, DC, I mean, I'm the defensive guy, I will wear your legs out. I'll make you run so much harder, make you think about what teams did. They made Alabama get deep into the shot clock versus quick shots, which wears your legs out, which hurts the threes. Right. And then I'm able to pack it down. Even when I don't have a bona fide rim protector like they had, I still have worn you out. And I know, what do I know, DC? I don't have to come out and get you because you're not going to take the mid-range shot. Right. So UConn had one guy that was a rim protector, but all of their bigs were blocking shots because all they had to do was wait. A rim protector makes you change your shot at the rim. UConn was just waiting because they knew we were coming right to him. So, first of all, mid-range will make that guy come out, which gives you what? Alley-oops to our big man. Bediako should have had, if we had a mid-range shot, Bediako would have had 15 dunks against San Diego State. But they never had to come off, and the threes never changed, DC. The other part of that is, to me, we have to have a guy like UConn or like Gonzaga. We need a skilled big man that has offensive post moves. Because what will happen, DC, when you got a big man that can post up? And you even gonna get.
It adds a different dynamic to the game if you got a big man that can post up, because you can get the ball in there and they have to concentrate on him, and the people collapse to him, and then it gives your offside wing guard wide open three.
Yeah, I'm like, Nate, there's other ways to get that wide open three other than drive and kick, right? He has to add that. Right. And then we have to get physical, guys. We have to get physical. And I'm going to that's on both ends, and I'll leave it and let you guys respond to that. Let you go, DC, and then you go, X.
Yeah, I think you're exactly correct. I think right now we don't have a big man that can put the ball on the court and play with his back to the basket like UConn and San Diego State did, and make plays that way. When you have that, you have the defense collapse on them, and you got somebody open out in the wings, which is perfect for three-point shooters. That's the team you want to be, a three-point shooting team. You can get the ball out in open space to them to get the threes, especially if they're being guarded really hard, like San Diego State guards you at the three-point line. when they have to collapse and help on a big man, it really leaves somebody open. And yeah, you're right. We don't have the physicality that they had. Sanogo, Klingman, Mensah, all were much more physical inside, and even some of their guards had much more physical play than we have around the 3-point line. So I agree with you 100%. Both those things could add a greater dimension to the Alabama basketball.
X.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think Pringle is a guy that could bring that type of play to Alabama. You know, he's not the biggest guy, but he can back down a little bit. He can make the passes out. So I feel like he should have been a little bit more involved in the offensive game plan, even though he was coming off the bench. And I think Clowney, you know, if he decides to return, is a guy that can develop that part of his game as well, being a skilled big down low, even though he likes to play out on the wing as well at times. So if Alabama, even though, like CJ says, it's a bad shot analytically, I think Nate Oates has to make adjustments to get this team over the hump, because if we keep playing the way that we're playing, we'll win a lot of games during the regular season. We can win the SEC tournament, you know, but to go deep, you have to have more than two dimensions of your game.
Okay.
Yeah, but just to kind of reiterate that, what you just said, X, is important. I think the coach is going to have to change a little bit of his thinking. And if you go back, I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but Dan Hurley, the coach of UConn, that in the interviews immediately after the Alabama game where they beat Alabama, he kept talking about how he was looking forward to playing Nate Oates, looking forward to all of his analytics, and he had been friends with him for years. It was a pleasure to play him. But in the interview afterwards, he said this, which I think it held true. He said it's time. He was talking about they advanced to the championship game against Iowa State in that tournament early in the year. He said it's time that we had to make some changes in our style here at UConn, where we stop just winning a bunch of games and start winning championships. And that's where Alabama is right now. We can't just be looking at winning a bunch of games. You can win a bunch of games. 31-6 is a great record. But now, and that's great. I'm not down in that. But I'm saying now we got to get to a point where we're getting that mind thinking of, hey, we got to start making some minor adjustments to win championships. And that's exactly what Dan Hurley has done at UConn.
And let me see it. And I know what the statement means. It's a poor shot analytically. It's a poor shot if the guy shoots mid-ranges low. Okay, somebody tell me this. Somebody, as the old saying say, DC, riddle me this. Quinterly on a freaking layup floater or Brandon Miller on a mid-range shot. Which one analytically, when you go back and if you check your numbers, is a better shot?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's only a
better shot,
low analytic shot when you have people that can't hit the mid range.
Right. It's only. I mean, San Diego State made it to the championship game because they had a mid range game, along with the physicality. Not have even taken that shot that won San Diego State the game because we've been trying to get a 3-hour drive. I mean.
Or when you got a guy like Trammell at San Diego State, who I was impressed with this game because after he got blocked a couple of times, he realized, hey, maybe I shouldn't drive in there. Maybe I should look like I'm driving there and do a step back right here and hit this little mid-range jumper. And he hit it over and over and over again. That's the kind of mentality you got to have. A guy that can do both and do it well.
I'll say this before we get to Chuck on the phone. DC, we saw a guy. We've seen guys refuse to change on the gridiron.
Yes.
And what happened to them? Les Miles was a winning coach and refused to change offensively, or he could have. And people don't want to hear this. People don't want to hear this. We could barely beat LSU in our dominant time. We were barely beating them a lot of times. And what did we keep saying? Boy, if they ever fool around and decide to change offensively, we're going to be in trouble. Well, they did.
Yeah. And we were.
And they won a national title with the next guy. Georgia has come in and made the adjustment. They're still pro-style physical, but Monken was creative in getting the ball to his playmakers in space and all that. He didn't go hurry up or any of that, but he still changed his passing game. If Nate Oates doesn't change, guys, we're going to have a lot of excitement until March Madness. That's my thoughts. Hey, listen, I love the enjoyment we have all season, but do you want to win a lot of games or do you want to win championships? If Connecticut can get there, I mean, UConn can get there from 1999, never having made it that far, and then win 5. Why can't Alabama get over the hump and get 1? Just get there and have a chance. So we saw what the teams did last night, and those teams are the teams that beat us the first game of the season and the last game. Chuck, you in with Martin Houston, Xavier Houston, and DC Capstone Report on the Alabama One Hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
Good morning, you all. I'm just chiming in what you all talking about. Last night, what you saw of what you said, it all started with UConn, that 99 national championship. I just think about Jim Calhoun. I look at Nate Oates' his story. It's kind of like Calhoun. Think about where they were coaching. See, Calhoun came from Northeastern University in Boston. He coached Reggie Lewis, and then he came to UConn. How he built that program, coming in, being in the Big East. There's something to look at that. I remember watching the 89-90 season with Chris Smith and Tate George, and thinking about Scott Burrell and all those guys. And looking at how that team just developed. And I remember '99 when they had Richard Rip Hamilton, they beat Duke, that first national championship team. And then you think about them when they beat Georgia Tech and then beat Butler with under Calhoun. He just kept it going. Then his former player Kevin Ollie coached that last national championship team, and they beat Kentucky. And then I look at last night with Danny Hurley, what he's done with that beating San Diego State. See, Danny Hurley knows that Big East team real well. I remember when he was playing at Seton Hall, and while his big brother Bobby was playing at Duke playing with Christian Laettner and Grant Hill, those back-to-back national championship teams. But it all goes back to he had that in his blood, going back to Bobby Hurley Sr., who coached those great high school teams at St. Anthony's in New Jersey. And it's in that pedigree, and that's that Big East thing as well. And you can just see it. I saw that last night. I saw that old school Big East thing about Georgetown, St. John's, Providence, just Syracuse, and all that. Just going back to those times of those great teams, and they just have that intensity. And the guards are aggressive as well. You think about your Ray Allens and your Khalid El-Amins and your Caron Butlers and many others. Your Shabazz Napiers. That's the intensity of UConn, and Danny Hurley's bringing that old Big East back to them.
Absolutely, Chuck. And when you look at it, it's a style of play. It's an intensity of play. They get guys. But did anybody hear her? And I'll let you go after this. Thanks for those comments, Chuck. Hey,
all right,
DC, did you hear this? And I'll let you respond when we go to break. Hurley said, when I go out and recruit, I'm recruiting guys that want to play for UConn, for me, and not for NIL or NBA.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said.
I was like, ouch. Do what?
I said you could tell the team was bought in because of that.
Yeah. Everybody forgets this team started off good and then fell off in the middle of the year and then got back right. And then, like I said, they were down the stretch. They were clearly, I didn't watch them a lot, but in the tournament, they won every game double digit. Every game.
Yeah.
Closest game they had was 13 points. And it doesn't matter who you play. That's a dominant run. UConn sits atop the basketball world, and they are sitting there for the 5th time, the best program in college basketball in the last 25 years. Anybody want to make an argument?
No, I don't think there's any argument to that.
They got it.
Quietly, what's crazy is quietly they have done that. So can Alabama get to that elite air? And will 25 years from now, will we be talking about Alabama having broken that glass ceiling with Nate Oates at the helm and others from that point on. Hopefully we'll get there. Until then, we'll keep talking about it. We're going to flip over on the other side of the break, talk a little Alabama football. Nick Saban saying this offseason was Full Metal Jacket, saying that he want to go back, doubling down on his statement from last year that Alabama want to become more balanced. What does he mean by that? We can keep it going right here on the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier with DC Capstone Report.
This is a Town Square Media Tide 100.9 Sports Update.
I'm Kim Rankin with your Tide Sports Update. 4-star class of 2025 offensive lineman Mason Short has committed to Alabama. The Alabama softball team ranked number 15 in this week's D1 softball rankings. Bryce Young worked out with the Indianapolis Colts.
This has been a Town Square Media Tide 100.9 Sports Update. Run it again! For more info on these stories and more, download the Tide 100.9 app. Tide 100.9 Traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, we got a report of a fire at Hot Works. This is on University Boulevard near the campus. Fire crews are on the scene. We also have a report of a wreck near the Mercedes plant number 2 with major delays. Townsend Nissan is paying top dollar for your current car, truck, or SUV because values are at an all-time high. It's the Save-a-thon. It's underway, and BJ's making deals at Townsend Nissan. I'm Captain Ray.
Hey, this is Reagan, owner of R&R Cigars, the Cigar Mansion in downtown Tuscaloosa, located at 2703 6th Street across from the Home 2 Suites. Come down to R&R and see why we're the ultimate cigar and bourbon experience. With over 165 bourbons and 5 private barrels, our selection of bourbon is unmatched. We have the best cocktails around, and our cigar selection is legendary. Our lounge and service are world-class. Come and experience the luxury of the mansion and see why it's a world-renowned cigar and spirits destination.
Breaking news.
Tax refund shock is everywhere, but what is it?
My tax refund shrank.
Mine too.
The culprit? Pandemic-related stimulus payments and tax credits expiring. In this reporter's opinion, you need a tax expert.
Hey guys, Jackson Hewitt guarantees your biggest refund.
And tax prep is 50% off? Going there now.
50% off is a limited time offer for new clients filing at participating locations. Max value $200. Visit jacksonhewitt.com/50 for terms.
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811, brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
The Tuscaloosa Mayor's Cup 5K for pre-K will be April 29th at 8 a.m. in downtown Tuscaloosa. For more information or to register, go to TuscaloosaMayorsCup.com. That's www.TuscaloosaMayorsCup.com.
It's the Tuscaloosa Community Calendar, powered by Pepsi.
Tuscaloosa's one place is hopping into downtown Northport to brighten up the season with the Bunny Trail, which is a display of nearly 100 giant eggs that adorn historic downtown Northport. Mark your calendars for Friday, April 7th from 3 to 6 for an egg hunt on the Bunny Trail. There'll be prizes, refreshments, activities, and a special visit from the Easter Bunny. Tuscaloosa's one place is hopping into downtown Northport to brighten up the season with the Bunny Trail. For more details, log on to northportbunnytrail.com.
Welcome back to the Martin Houston Show, the sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team, on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show. Martin and Xavier on Tide 100.9. Hey, go to Alabama1, alabama1.org. While you're there, check out a couple great promotions happening. If you're looking to get spring toys, whether it's ATV, UTV, boats, motorcycles, wreck vehicles, etc., or even small farm equipment, you can do that. Get great rates, great terms, no pay for 60 days up to $250 cash. So you can flexible loan terms to fit your budget. And hey, if you do that, you can get a big green egg, win a big green egg. Or you may be looking to do some remodeling now that it's springtime. Put your home equity to work with our home equity line of credit, HELOC promotion, or fixed second mortgage. either one of those, you can go to alabama1.org, find out some of the great terms that we have right now. We'll pay your closing costs for you on that HELOC and or fixed second mortgage. So those promotions, as well as several other great things, our Swipe to Win credit card promotion where you can win $500 is still there and available as well. So go get that new credit card or begin to use the one you have. That's Alabama One, alabama1.org. Alabama One together. What's your one? All right, DC, let's go ahead and get Super Joe in. Not sure if he want to go to the basketball conversation or to the football conversation that we're about to have, but either way, we'll go ahead and get him in. Super Joe, you're in with Martin and Xavier and DC on the Alabama One hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
How you doing today? Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and I gotta say, what y'all hearing about the practices so far?
Not hearing. I mean, not a whole lot's coming out right now from what I've heard. I think there's been so much teaching going on this spring. Super Joe, practices are closed, so guys really aren't getting to see a whole lot. And what they show us in the beginning is a whole lot of fluff. DC, have you heard anything much coming out?
I've not heard much coming out. I got a couple of people that give me reports and that sort of thing. Most of them are talking about what you're talking about, Martin. That is a lot of teaching and hands-on teaching coming out. I've heard of a couple of players that's kind of jumped out to people, but other than that, not much.
All right, you got anything else, Super Joe?
Not much. I just one thing I said. I've been hearing great on our offense. Offense is very being powerful and stuff like that. People are happy about the guns. So I still looking forward. We're gonna have a bright season because I know the Georgia, losing to Georgia, and I know good and well Georgia been 2-time champion. Saying Kirby's the man that's getting under Coach Saban's skin. You can't say it isn't.
It definitely is getting under his skin, but that's just like if you're a competitor and it doesn't bother you that somebody seems to be pulling away from the sport, I question your competitive nature anyway. So I think it wouldn't matter who it is. If it was Clemson, Ohio State, or anyone, I think Nick Saban would be challenged. But I think with the fact that it's, listen, I tell my boys, Super Joe, all the time. They're young men now. I want them to pass me. I want them to be better than me. But I'm not a stagnant target. So if they pass me, that means that they're doing really good, and then they better keep going because I'm going to chase them down and pass them back. And I think that's the way Coach Saban looks at Kirby. So I think it's a good thing for Alabama if we're going to get back on top that the person that's doing it is Kirby. Thanks, Super Joe. Sorry about that. Thanks, Super Joe.
Take care now.
All right. DC, you can go first. DC, you can respond to that, and then we'll get back and have a nice long segment for the last part.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at it like that, I do agree that Coach Saban is he's trying to get back to the basics on things, and two, he isn't going to be a stagnant target. He's going to keep working to be better and get better and take this program back to where it was, where we were competing for championships year in and year out, and where you hopefully through the end of his career we don't have this gap or drought where it's one championship in 5 years and things of that nature. Because I mean, he's coaching 9 at Alabama in 16 years, and to think about it, which is an amazing statistic as it is, but to think that we've only won one of the last 3 that we've played in, I think Coach Saban is going to right the ship and get things going back in the right direction.
DC?
Yeah, I agree with X. I think it goes a little deeper than that this year, a little bit deeper than what Super Joe's talking about. I do think he, of course, is competitive and wants to compete against Kirby Smart in Georgia, but I think the feeling he has this year is an even deeper feeling in that he didn't even make it to an opportunity to play Georgia this past year. And I think he is motivated by losses. I think he hates to lose more than he loves to win. So I think he's motivated by that to get this team back. And I think that kind of where we see his comments about the full metal jacket lie. I think he wants to get this team back to a different place. I think he knows it's going to take some hard-nosed coaching to get them there.
Yeah, DC, I laugh because he said he's motivated by losses more than wins. You know what type of losses eat you up? Them kind you can go back and see that you yourself could have made one or two different calls. Like to lose, like last night, San Diego State could go back and there's really not anything that they could go back and say, hey, if we had done this, we'd probably walk away with a win. With Alabama in the two losses, you can say if we do this, we don't lose, or if we do this, we win. You know, and both most of us would say that was not just player related, but coaches related. Now,
yeah, but look, and keep it in mind with that, Martin. Look at what. Let's say you sit down and watch the Tennessee game and the LSU game. What one thing could Alabama have done in there as a team, and could have made a difference in both of those games? And then that what he's talking about now, getting back to a physical running game. I mean, there's two pivotal moments in those games where if our offensive play callers can and we can run the ball, then there's no time on the clock for the other teams to do what they did in the end to win the game.
Yeah.
And I just think that's what really makes you sick when you look at those two games and see what you could have done. And I think that's why we're hearing what we're hearing him say. This is what we got to get back to. I think he realizes that.
Yeah, DC.
I think the other aspect of it, when he's talking about balance, I don't think he necessarily means 50-50 passing, 50-50 running, but more along the aspects of being able to throw the ball when you need to throw the ball and run the ball when you need to run the ball. And I think that's what he means when he talks about balanced offense, not necessarily a split in the play call.
Roll tide roll. There's no reason to go. Let's just run it straight through and combine some breaks at the end, because I don't want to break the flow of the conversation, because that's where I wanted to go on the other side of the break. What does Nick Saban mean by balance? And what could we have done differently? And is that the one thing that we're missing when Nick Saban says, hey, we want to be balanced? I hear people going, man, can you win a championship if you run the ball 55, 60, 65%? That's not what Nick Saban's talking about.
Yeah, that's not what he's talking about at all.
He's not talking about the percentage of the time that you run or pass. I am balanced, meaning that I can do whichever one I want to do. If I want to run the ball, I run the ball. If I want to pass the ball, I pass the ball. He said that last year, and we couldn't do it. Let's talk about some of the reasons why we couldn't do it. Listen to if we wanted to do that with the talent that we have recruited, DC, why couldn't we do that last year? Because literally, to your point, in the Tennessee game, even though defensively, now I think we could have changed defense, and that has to eat him up, that we never adjusted defensively to what Tennessee did, and they got 5 touchdowns off of one type of play, okay? But even with all of that said, at the end of the game, if we could have ran the ball or felt like we could run the ball, we get a few more yards, leave no time on the clock, and we either kick to win or kick to go to overtime. And I think Alabama had the advantage in the overtime because we had walked Tennessee down, and they had played the absolute best game they could play, and they would have been like, crap, we're in overtime with this team. I think we would have had the mental advantage. But, DC, why couldn't we do that last year? And why will we be able to do it this year then?
Well, I think we got one. We had a one thinking last year, I think, in that we're going to put the ball in Bryce Young's hands because he's the best player on the team, and I think their entire makeup, I think our offensive line was thinking that way. I don't think anyone thought they could run the ball against anybody, on that team, especially the coaches. I'll say this: the offensive coaches never indicated in any game that it felt like they could run the ball when they needed to. And I think that it starts with the offensive line. It starts with the coaches, offensive play callers, being able to feel comfortable, being able to if they need to run the ball, that they can run the ball, even when the other team knows you're going to run the ball. That's the hallmark of Alabama's championship teams. If you look back on a pivotal game in a championship run season, it had to be Alabama versus South Carolina, where we said, okay, we're going to put Mark Ingram back here. Y'all all know he's got the ball, and you all know he's going to run the ball, but we're going to run it right down your throat, and we're going to win this ball game. That's the type of mentality that we didn't have on that team last year. And it starts with the offensive line. It doesn't really start with the backs or the coach. It starts with the offensive line. We didn't have that last year. We didn't even practice, I don't think, in practice running the ball. We practiced RPOs and throwing the ball.
But I'm going to disagree.
I got to give a little pushback.
I'm going to give you a little.
I got to give a little.
Go ahead, X. Go ahead, X. I'll let you go, and then I'll.
I think this team, the reason why we struggled to run the ball really over the last 2 years is simply on the shoulders of Bill O'Brien.
Agree.
Alabama has had a physical offensive line, but the play calling doesn't play into that. When you have a big power back like Brian Robinson, you don't need to be running RPOs with him. You need to give him the ball and let him go. When you have an elusive guy like a Jahmyr Gibbs, you give him the ball and put him on the edge. But the RPOs causes that offensive line to have to second guess what they're doing in the run game. And so when when they have to go, is it going to be a pass? I can't go all the way downfield. I can't engage. I can't show my strength, my power, and knock this guy off the ball, because if I do, that's a penalty. Play's coming back. And I think the play calling and the play caller hindered the offensive line, especially up under Wolford, because I think that offensive line up under Wolford was a lot meaner last year than it was the year before.
And these,
so I think we're saying the same thing, X, because I think you're not hearing what I'm saying. I'm saying you can't have an offensive line that's physical if that's not the way you're going to play, and if you're not putting them in that position. That offensive line last year, you can't tell me was played physical, because they didn't know when to play physical, because they were always in RPO mode. You can't have an offensive line that practices every day in practice against RPOs, and then put them in a game and say, okay, we're going to get 2 yards here against this 11-man defensive front. They don't practice it. You're not going to do it in a game.
Let me tell you what I disagree with.
And they practice against a defensive team. Our defensive team was soft because our offensive team was playing that way against us. It made a whole different thing. So that's what I'm saying. I agree with you 100%. Play calling and attitude and RPOs has gotten us into a weaker team, at least the way we play.
Let me say this, DC. But the wording you said would make people think you were saying it was the players, because you said it starts with the offensive line and not with the play calling or the coaches. Actually, it all starts with the coaching and the philosophy, to me, and I think that's what you were communicating. But the wording is what made me say, "Hey, I'm going to disagree with you on it," because I took away from what you were saying is that it starts with the offensive line. Actually, this offensive line could play physical, DC. We saw it against Arkansas. We lost our quarterback, and the backup had no reps in with the ones, and we simply called run plays. Jahmyr Gibbs looked like the Jahmyr Gibbs we thought we were getting from Georgia Tech. We did it a little bit against Auburn. That's the 2 games where I saw a semblance of a commitment to a run game. And that's why I say, and so with this team, DC, and we'll pick this conversation up next week after we have a scrimmage, but DC, I'll let you have the closing thoughts. I think Wolford has more of a physical build offense this year. I think Reese is going to have a commitment to the run, and I think the philosophy is going to change in that sense. And I think we'll get back to that balance that Nick Saban said, because from the coaching staff to the players to the technique, it all lines up. Closing thoughts, DC.
I agree 100%. I think Wolford is the man for the job. I think he has a great opportunity to bridge this offensive line, and it'd be a good run offensive line and a good pass offensive line. You don't have to lose your physicality when you play pass defense if you play action passing. So I think this is going to be a good season for Alabama's offensive line.
Look for physical run, balance. Look for quick passes. Look for Henderson to get some of those plays out there in the bubble screens like Amari Cooper used to get, and look for a whole lot of play action pass. that's based off of an actual run game.
That's correct.
DC, tell them real quick where they can find you, sir.
We can catch me at DCCapstoneReport.com, DC Capstone Report Facebook page. You can follow me on Twitter at DavidCott50 and check out Lance's other sites, RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com for some great Alabama content. And don't forget about my sponsor, Karen Cottingham, Realtor here in Tuscaloosa with the Keller Williams and the Williams Group.
Hey, closing thoughts, man, about 30 seconds.
Hey, I know we've given UConn a lot of praise for winning 5 national championships since 1999. But hey, Bama fans, remember, Alabama has won 6 since 2009. So, hey, while we're trying to get things figured out in basketball, we're still the top dogs when it comes to football. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, and I find it interesting. UConn wins 5 in 24 years, and that's one every 5 years. And Alabama's won 1 in the last 5 years in football, and we feel like the ship has wrecked and sank. So that tells you just how good we are in football. Hey, thanks.
That means we're due for this year.
That's right. Thanks, DC. Thanks, X. Thanks all the listeners, callers, viewers, and chatters out there for being a part of the program. We appreciate you. Remember this, trust in the Lord always, lean not your own understanding. All you always acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Roll Tide out there, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.